The year is 1893 in Springfield, Massachusetts. There's a group of horses that are just grazing. They're taking time off because these are beasts of burden, because they work hard. People rely on them for literally everything from transportation to work. They're more or less the engine that drives the economy. Just over the fence, there's a small factory, and they're producing what looks to be a horse carriage, but there's no harness for horses anywhere to be seen. So a young horse goes to an old horse and says, "Hey, should we be worried about that carriage?" And the old horse goes, "No. Every new type of carriage they produce just means they're going to need more horses. So this is great for us." Historically, that's always been true. If you see a carriage being produced, it means they need at least one horse and possibly more. The bigger the carriage, the more horses they'll need. And what they're looking at is the very first automobile being manufactured, which incidentally did not need horses, but was also the canary in the coal mine for the complete and total collapse of horses as the driving force and backbone of the economy. It pisses me off beyond measure when people say things like, "Oh, automation is just going to free humans up to do higher value work. Every new technological innovation has just created more jobs." And they do things like they cite the Industrial Revolution or even the Internet Revolution. What they're doing is historical confirmation bias. What they don't realize is they're looking at this through the wrong frame. Historically, technological innovations have changed what work is done. AI changes who does the work. Does that make sense? In the past, all new technological innovations just changed what work is done. AI, with robotics, changes who does the work. And that should be a little scary. And I realize I'm not trying to catastrophize. I don't think this heralds a dystopian future. I'm not saying that we're staring down the barrel of a dystopian future. I actually think that AI is the greatest thing that will ever happen to humanity. And I really mean that. Like, I think all absolute poverty completely goes away. I think the supply chain issues and the commoditization of products, like, we're going to see mass deflation, which is going to help on levels and degrees that I don't think any of us can understand just yet. So I'm very, very, very positive about AI and about technological innovations. But what I'm not positive about is the idea that we don't need to be very attentive to what's happening. And by we, I mean you and I, business owners, entrepreneurs, employers, employees. We have to pay attention to what's going on because it's going to impact us massively. So I watched this video, Sean Putty, My First Million. He had this great analogy that I'm going to steal. He called it the K-shaped economy. The very first line, the base of the K, this represents where we are now. So here's where we are now. And then here's the divergence. This is the fork in the road. And at the fork, up goes 20%. This is 20% of the people are going to be effectively weaponized using AI. 20% of people are going to produce at 10x the historic average. 80% of people, you could even look at this as people in companies, right? Especially small businesses. 80% of people in small businesses are going to go down to absolute zero. They're going to be replaced. Now, your job, if you're a W-2 employee, is to stay above this line. And what would that really mean? Practically speaking, it means learn the tools. Learn the AI tools so you can become one of the weaponized 10 times as productive humans, and so you maintain your position in the 20%. If you get left behind, then you fall below to the 80% that gets nullified down to zero. If you're a business owner and entrepreneur, your job is to weaponize your staff. You want AI-enabled employees. The new key performance indicator just became how much work can you accomplish with AI. So instead of replacing people with AI, incentivize them to begin doing the work using AI tools and then watch them be 10 times as productive. And what will end up happening, interestingly, is the businesses that can't do that fall off and fall away, which means the market opens up to the businesses that can. This is something of a temporary timeline. You know, it's the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years of AI arbitrage where businesses can really take advantage, massive advantage of what AI is going to allow them to do. At Solutions 8, one employee averaged 15 clients. So one employee would average 15 clients with an average $10,000 ad spend. So if you're a media buyer and you have your 15 clients, in the age of AI, 15 could become 150. Now, what's interesting about that is there aren't currently, with the number of agencies and the number of clients, there aren't enough clients for agencies, right? But, and this is the thing that is both scary and promising, most agencies aren't going to really be able to adopt and utilize the technology as first movers. And so they fall away. So the number of agencies actually is going to drop dramatically because most of the agencies aren't going to be able to be efficient in this ecosystem. The agencies that are left scoop up the remaining clients. So again, you're either at the top of the K or you're at the bottom of the K. This is what feels to me like a zero-sum game. And y'all, the data supports that, by the way. If you look at what's happening at large, I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I live 10 minutes from GoDaddy's corporate office. GoDaddy just laid off what feels like is their entire US-based team. I realize I think they still have some folks in Utah or something, but and they didn't just farm it out to the Philippines. They're not replacing those jobs. They're able to have the work performed using AI, automation, process management, etc. And they're not the only ones. Meta made $3.9 million in EBITDA, in net profit, per laid-off employee. Amazon made $2.8 million per laid-off employee. Microsoft made, wait for it, $9.8 million per laid-off employee. Businesses and corporations are getting more and more efficient, and they're getting more efficient because they need less people to do more. I realize that this is an inconvenient truth, but it's the truth. So for those of you that are running around saying, oh no, every new innovation just yields, more jobs, more placement. No, you're wrong. I don't like it any more than you do, by the way. I actually think that there's quite a few implications that we're all going to have to think through on a societal level. Things like universal basic income. I do believe we'll be able to traverse that. Again, I don't want to make this a Chicken Little video, but we need to be practical, honest with ourselves about where we are. AI didn't change what work gets done. AI changes who does the work. Now the AI is doing the work. In the short term, you'll notice that AI still needs to be catalyzed and monitored, right? So human intervention is still very necessary for the time being. We're racing to a reality where that's not true. We're racing to a reality where you just tell the AI what the absolute and complete end result is, and then it accomplishes it along the way. If you've played with ChatGPT's new operator, it's a miracle. Never seen anything like it. You give it the end result, and then it finds its way there, and it makes really interesting departures and some pretty brilliant logical steps towards problem solving, things that I wouldn't necessarily have considered. So I'd love to know if you disagree with me. I'd actually really, really appreciate thoughtful dissent. I'd really appreciate people who are like, no, you're wrong and here's why. Hit me in the comments. Let me know. Let's get that conversation going. If you agree with me, I think the thing that we need to do is work on weaponizing ourselves, weaponizing our staff. If you want people to survive, they have to learn to use these tools. They have to. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind. I think that we're going to have a moral responsibility to take care of the people that are left behind. And that's a whole different conversation for a whole different channel that I have nothing to do with. What I would like to do is plant a flag in the ground and say, the people that are working off of historical confirmation bias, they're dead wrong. They're dead wrong. They could not be more wrong. This is a shifting landscape like we've never seen before, and we have to prepare for it. So no matter what you do, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what your job is, begin looking at how you can use these tools in order to amplify and maximize your value.